Thank you, Ilan, for that introduction. And thank you, Valeria, Sophia, and Naomi from the Students Supporting Israel Movement and all of the co-sponsors for putting together this important summit and for inviting me to say a few words. As Israel's ambassador to the United States and the United Nations, it is a true honor to speak at an event that focuses on the ARA definition of anti-Semitism, because defining a problem is the first step to really solving it. When I was Minister of Public Security, I had the privilege of working with the incredible students at SSI, and I watched them make a real difference defending the State of Israel on college campuses. Alongside their work on the front lines against the anti-Semitic BDS, last August, they succeeded in passing a resolution at the Arizona State University student government calling for the school to adopt the IRA definition. Since then, SSI has managed to have 10 more resolutions adopted by student organizations across the US and Canada. They have made this their flagship campaign, now focusing on protecting the State of Israel and the Jewish community. On behalf of the State of Israel, I thank you deeply for all of your efforts. Growing up, I was very close to my grandparents. All 4 of them survived the Holocaust, 3 surviving the terrors of Auschwitz. They taught me the importance of fighting anti-Semitism. They instilled in me the understanding that we cannot afford to wait for anti-Semitic rhetoric to turn into physical violence before taking action, because if we do, it could be too late. When they recalled to me their experiences during the Holocaust, they didn't only talk about the horrors of the camps. They would talk about the pre-years as well. They told me about the awful anti-Semitism that surrounded them. How it started with a word here and a nasty comment there, but as we all know, that isn't where it ended. The terrible atrocities my grandparents and millions of others experienced have taught us that we must take a stand against all expressions of anti-Semitism, however small and meaningless they might appear. There is no such thing as harmless anti-Semitism. With the rising wave of anti-Semitism the world is experiencing, which the COVID-19 crisis has only made worse, it is more important than ever to fight against it. Thanks to IRA, we now have an essential tool in this fight. IRA provides us with a clear definition of not only classic anti-Semitism, but also of its modern forms, denying the Jewish people's right to their own state in Israel. There is a clear difference between criticizing a certain policy enacted by Israel to claiming that it does not have the right to exist in the first place. One is legitimate, the other is pure anti-Semitism. Falsely accusing the most vibrant democracy in the Middle East of human rights violations while ignoring the worst human rights violators in the world, such as Iran and Syria, is a double standard for the world's only Jewish state. It is anti-Semitism. Making this clear is incredibly important, especially on college campuses, where the leaders of tomorrow are forming their opinions and shaping their worldview. BDS and other anti-Semitic groups work tirelessly on campuses to threaten the Jewish community and the future of the State of Israel. Their actions are many times anti-Semitic, and they must not be allowed to continue polluting the minds of students by spewing hate and bigotry. This is why promoting legislation of the IRA definition in students' governments and working with academic departments is so important. It allows students to recognize anti-Semitism and more effectively fight against it. Friends, while SSI and others are working to eradicate anti-Semitism from the institutions that are growing tomorrow's leaders, I am working to eradicate it from the institution that represents today's leaders, the United Nations. I have already begun working to promote the adoption of the IRA definition as the official definition of anti-Semitism for the entire UN body. This will allow us to fight against the anti-Semitism that exists in the too many of the UN's bodies. Take UNRWA, for example. It incites to violence, promotes terrorism, and tries to erase the Jewish people's connection to their eternal homeland in Israel. Not only does this perpetuate the conflict, it is also anti-Semitic. This is completely unacceptable, and I am fighting to end this outrage. In my meeting with ambassadors, I encourage them to join the growing number of states that have already adopted the IRA definition. 30 countries is a lot, but I will not be satisfied until all countries take up the definition and begin to truly tackle anti-Semitism. I am also fighting anti-Semitism at the UN by promoting the adoption of a resolution to effectively address Holocaust denial. It is crucial that the UN speak out loudly and clearly against this repulsive phenomenon. Holocaust denial does not only disgrace the memory of victims and the lives of survivors, it is also extremely dangerous. Anti-Semites try to get people to forget the terrible consequences of their anti-Semitism. I will not let that happen. I am sure that it is not surprising for anyone here that on top of repeating anti-Semitic tropes and openly declaring their intention to annihilate the world's only Jewish state, Iran's leaders also host competitions showcasing Holocaust denial. We must never allow this dangerous regime to hold the world's most dangerous weapons. Friends, the fact that people from all around the world have come together today make me very hopeful. It shows that the global Jewish community is united around the IRA definition and in the fight against anti-Semitism. By coming together, we send a strong message. The Jewish people and the state of Israel are resilient. We are strong. I want to thank you all for your dedication to this important fight and to wish you all a productive summit. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.